All right, welcome back to the Empathy Dojo. We are in Boundaries module, class number 2 of week number 3. We've been in the art of no. We've been in the art of no. So yesterday, if you watched that class or whenever you watched that previous class, I invited you to take some really hard line stances. Number 1, just say no. Number 2, to hear no means no. And our last magical phrase was, thank you for taking care of yourself. And all of this about adding that next C, compassionate, connected, consensual orientation. So we're going to move on from that. And I told you, I believe in that last episode, that today we would walk back from that hard line toward being able to soften a little bit. So, but it is important if you're going to enter into the realm of negotiations to be able to make a firm no. If we're not able to do that, it's likely that when we get into negotiating with another person, that our yeses are going to actually be more about fawning behavior, trying to please the other one. What could we call it? Let's call it freeze and please, right? Central nervous system goes into shock, and then we go into pleasing behavior to try to create safety. Okay, now sometimes that is a tactic. Like as a martial artist, I'll use ameliorating language and speak to de-escalate a person if necessary. But we don't want to have that be the only tactic, and we don't want to have it just because our nervous system is going into shock. We want to know and train ourselves that no is allowed and is actually really powerful. If our paradigm is about choosing on one another's behalf, then you got to know where your boundaries are. You got to know where your hard limits are. And from there, then you can start to know what is negotiable. Where can we find a yes? Where can we get to a yes from this no? My Lama, his slogan is turning stops into steps. And this applies to all aspects of like spiritual training and stuff like that. But we could also apply this to when negotiation is appropriate, right? Honey, I'd love it if you did the dishes more often. No. Okay. Well, what do you do when you hear that no? I might shut down. Some of us might become enraged. Others of us might immediately start thinking of ways to manipulate or coerce the person into doing what we want. Others of us might go into spirals of self-deprecation, shame, or blame when we hear a no. So this is where if you can apply that slogan of turning that stop, right? The no, oh, stop, hold on, boundary reached. Turning that into a step, which doesn't mean just crashing through the boundary. It means, okay, well, that route is closed. Let's see if we can find a route that will get us where we're going safely, which in a relationship, where are we going is toward mutual harmony and thriving. Okay, so that brings up your major tactic in negotiations, which is, in case you haven't heard me say this before, now's the time to really drill down into it. My choices that I feel produce my thriving may seem to be different than the choices that you feel would produce your thriving. These we call strategies. My strategy, I want the dishes done right after dinner. Your strategy, you want to relax right after dinner. We're both of those strategies are because we are trying to be happy. We're trying to be happy. Underlying those strategies are our universal human needs. So while you may not want to do the dishes right after dinner, you probably do want me to have a sense of peace, to have a sense of health, to have a sense of order, a sense of rest. You know, maybe I have that kind of nervous system that can't rest if there's dirty dishes. And this person as well, they may not want you to do your strategy, which is go sit on the couch after dinner or something like that. But they do want you to feel rest and ease, peace. And gosh, and once you get down to it, the universal needs are often the same. We have these divergent strategies, and the needs underlying are often exactly the same. So if we could get those, you have almost an immediate chance for empathy. This is when you're coaching in your own relationships. Oftentimes, the things that we're bickering, blah 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 blah. If you get down to the universal human needs underneath, they're often exactly the same on both sides of the argument. And when you can realize that, you have this immediate rapport. And from that rapport can come the ability to start to find new strategies that meet both of your needs. Okay, so this is going to be your main thing is finding a strategy that can meet the universal needs. Your homework, I'll give it to you in a second, but I'm going to put those universal needs sheets up in here as downloads again. And it's to look at just getting yourself familiar with those universal human needs. And the next time you have a strategy war is to start to get in there and see if you can find a new strategy, a third option that actually meets both of the needs of the people involved. Okay, so it is the start of a negotiation, turning the stop into a step, finding an alternate route to get to the final destination, which is interpersonal harmony. This is the art of requests. So if you have Dr. Rosenberg's book on nonviolent communication, the whole section on how to make requests is what we are talking about here. All right, so when we get into requests, then the next important thing comes up. This is a two-parter. First one is just that little mantra. Okay, we're in negotiation time. We've walked it back from hard limit to, okay, how am I going to get your needs met? How am I going to get my needs met? That's harder to see with your quote unquote enemies, right? How are we going to harmonize around our needs and find a strategy that meets everything? Okay, but if you walk it back and you think about your partner, your kids, your best friend, the co-owner of the yoga studio, often you're in those relationships because you love the person. You do want them to be happy, and it's easy for you to want them to be happy. So you have this impetus, you want that happiness for self and other. It's easy to start to find strategies. Oh, okay, I can set aside my pet strategy and actually find a course of action that's going to meet both of our needs. Okay, so in the art of requests, then moving on, the old thing you need to know is, how do you know it's a request and not a demand? In nonviolent styles of communication, I'll use that term because for me, violence, that our definition, working definition of violence, is attempting to use some kind of force to change another's behavior. Attempting to use some kind of force to change or manipulate somebody else's behavior. So that can be verbal violence, emotional violence. It can sound sweet, but underneath be manipulative. I'm calling all of that violent communication. It's coming from that closed, constricted, consumerist orientation, which is, we could add some C's on there, controlling and coercive. Okay, so if we don't want to do that, then we're going to need to be making requests and not demands. We could have a whole talk about how these words are used in political activism. Perhaps in activism, there's a time to make demands and stop making requests. But I think if we really drilled down into this interpersonal technology of compassionate communication, we would find that the way we're using requests here applies just as much in that situation. But I do have to point that out because making demands is a classical aspect of activism, and that's the language they use. So for us, in coaching your partners, in sprucing up your own communication so you have a better Thanksgiving this year, whatever it is, we know it's a demand because it comes with punishments. We know it's a demand because it comes with punishments. We know it's a request if it doesn't come with punishments, but it can still come with consequences. So we're in the art of requests. In negotiations, we're in the art of requests. Once we hear a no, once we even sense a no, you check in. Is that a no for you, actually? Yeah, it is, but I didn't want to say anything. Okay, thank you for taking care of yourself. Now, we're going to turn those stops into steps by making requests ourselves and eliciting requests from the other, right? That's all of this work that we've just done. And this is actually, although I said, oh, we're stepping it back, not so much a hard line. This is what high-level negotiators, like hostage negotiators, do, is you have to find out from the person, well, what is it that you want? People who are negotiating peace between warring countries. And the thing is that the warring parties will come in and I'll go, what do you want? These pigs, they do this and they've done this for years and years and years. And you have to empathize. Oh, that sounds really hard. Oh, that really sucks. Now, let's get down to your demands. What is it that you want? Once you get that, you can volley over. Well, they want this. Well, I don't want that. I want this. Well, how about this? And you can actually, if you're skilled in this art of negotiation, you can find a strategy that will meet the needs of both parties. Obviously, there will be times when that doesn't happen. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But like I said, we had a hard line day. Then this is the walking it back day. Oh, there's a stop. Let's turn that into a step. So we're making requests ourselves. We're listening requests from the other, and we want our request. We want to know it's a request because it comes with consequences rather than punishments, which would be for demands. So what's the difference? Well, a consequence, let me look in my notes here so I don't forget anything. So consequence, it's like easy example is you go to the used car dealer or any kind of car dealer, and apparently you have to negotiate. I walked on a lot last year and just bought one at the list price. But this year we bought a house, and you gotta negotiate. There's this whole science to it. Okay, so you walk on the car dealer. How do you know an easy consequence is, okay, look, you either drop the price or I have to walk off the lot. And it's the natural outcome. I do not have in my budget that extra $5,000. So you could phrase it either way. In the positive, it's if we can drop this $5,000, I can buy that car. Yay. If we don't drop it that $5,000, I can't buy that car. You're going to lose my business today. Now, some people may have like in their heart the desire to punish the car dealer, but ultimately that's not about a punishment. Why? Because it's not about causing them pain. It's not about like hurting them. I mean, so it gets a little juicy, right? Because you could be trying to cause them financial pain in order to get them to give you the car. That's one aspect. But in us, I'm assuming us being a little more honest than that, that, in this example, it's no, that's the natural consequence. You drop the price, or I won't be buying this car today. That was a natural consequence in our house buying. Somebody outbid us, and I didn't like the house enough to put a higher bid. So natural consequence, no problem. Okay, so that's one you can think about. But another one might be, let's say that you have this one's close to my heart. You have a partner who's more extroverted than you in this hypothetical example. So what did I say as I wrote the notes down for this? Oh yeah, if I go with you to that event, I'm going to have an anxiety flare up and not be very friendly with you for a little while. Okay, so if I were saying that, that's not a threat. So I'm sorry if someone has used this on you as a threat. People, that's two lessons from now. Bonus lesson is becoming the narcissist's nightmare this week. So hang tight for that. But in this one, we're going to assume a little bit of honesty. So, if I were saying that, it's not, oh my God, don't make me go to the party, I'm going to have a panic attack. No, it's literally like my nervous system is set up in the way that if I'm dealing with a bunch of these people, noisy people, like that's fun for some of us. That's not fun for me. I won't be any good for the next few days, right? We've noticed this. We have the evidence for that. So it's a consequence. And if you want to let them know that it's not a threat, it's just a consequence, you can follow it. You can chase this with something like, can we find a way to spend time together that's easier on my nervous system, right? So in that case, you're assuming the needs that the other is expressing. Oh, I'd like to spend time with you. And you bring your needs to the table. I would like to have a peaceful nervous system. Well, what are some introvert friendly activities? Going to the movies together. Ooh, that's a great one. Oh, it's so introvert friendly. Having a date together. Oh, it's so nice. Even having a couple people over. Okay, this isn't a sermon about how to treat your introverts, but it is a thing like, okay, well, what if it was spending time together, but with others? Then you can think like, oh, well, what if we had a few folks over? Or what if we had a bunch of folks over, but they were all close friends? Or what if we had a bunch of introverts over for a reading party or a music party? What if there's an infinite number of strategies by which everyone can get their needs met. And in this case, telling a person the consequence is not about, oh, this threatening thing. If you don't do that, then this. It's actually about sharing what your real needs are, what's really alive for you. So this is the softening. First part, turning stops into a steps. You hear a no, okay, that's a negotiation. This route I had planned isn't going to work. Let's see if we can take maybe even a more scenic route. I don't know. So we're turning our stops into steps, and then realizing that any negotiation, even around boundaries, is actually the art of requests. Boundaries, hard boundaries from another, we're requesting something very specific. Hard boundaries from yourself, you're requesting something very specific. Needs can still get met, even if particular pet strategies aren't getting met. And how we do that is one of the ways that we can do that in the compassionate connected orientation, not as threats, not with an implied, I'll hurt you into doing it my way. I'll throw a tantrum into you doing it my way, but actually just letting people know what's real for you. Oh, I can't go out for a glass of wine. Apparently, histamines and sulfites are bad for me. Can I take you to this tea bar? And then they can, of course, come back with their, negotiation is its own whole art. But we're talking about bringing on these negotiations from this compassionate, connected, and consensual worldview. So the whole idea, and this is the amazing thing that I've seen with a lot of clients, is that the assumption that compromise is necessary for a healthy and happy relationship is often not quite true. That's, here's your strategy, here's my strategy. Let's find a crummy strategy in the middle that only gets half our needs met. Well, actually, if you get creative, there's so many strategies that you can find that you can actually both get your needs met. And you know what that does is it reduces the resentment that can fester and ruin a relationship down the road. So just a few vocabulary words. We're going to get deeper into this in the next couple of days, but just get those downloaded into it. All right, stops and steps. We're in the realm of requests. And how do you know it's a request? It comes with consequences, not demands, which would mean that, or not punishments, which would mean that that's a demand. So tomorrow we're going to get into, because we're in tough cases week, tomorrow we're going to get into use of force. So if you do have to use force, like if someone's harming themselves or others, how do you do that from this compassionate, connected orientation? So we're going hard day, easy day, hard day, easy day, and we'll see where we get to from that. All right, talk to you then.